Have you ever stopped to notice a really strange paradox in how we live today? I mean, we are deeply, fundamentally wired to crave human connection. We want to be seen, we want to be heard, and we want to know that we belong, right? And yet, at the exact same time, we've developed this profound, almost desperate demand for the ability to just pause, mute, or delay that very connection. Take a second to really let that sink in. We want people in our lives, but we want them on a delay. We want them in our pockets, neatly organized into little notifications where we can summon them when we feel lonely and just silence them the second we feel overwhelmed. It's a completely new way of being human. So let's dive into this explainer because, honestly, understanding this dynamic is absolutely crucial to understanding modern relationships.
Think about a feeling that is so incredibly common today. It's this highly relatable tension. Your phone buzzes. You look down, see a message from a friend or a partner, and in that first split second, there's this rush of warmth. You wanted the message. You wanted that validation that someone out there is thinking of you. But then, almost immediately, this totally different feeling creeps in. Dread. You haven't even opened the message yet, but suddenly you feel this heavy, immediate pressure of having to respond. Opening that message, well, it means starting a clock. It means entering into this transactional exchange where something is now required of you. You wanted them to reach out, for sure, but you suddenly realize you don't actually want the unpredictable, live demand of having to reply right away.
And this brilliant contradiction, it extends even further. Imagine you've had just a terrible day. You might post a vague update online or maybe fire off a quick, frustrated text to a friend. You do this because, well, you want friends to care. You want sympathy, attention, and you want to feel supported. But what happens if that friend actually calls you? Or what if they text back and start asking a whole barrage of deep, unpredictable questions? Very often, we get easily overwhelmed. We realize that while we really wanted the comforting blanket of their sympathy, we didn't actually want the messy, probing, completely uncontrollable nature of a real conversation about our feelings. It just feels like way too much exposure.
So what do we do instead? Well, we adapt. We find this middle ground by basically keeping our relationships on life support through low-stakes digital reactions. Instead of making a long, emotionally demanding phone call to see how an old friend is actually doing, we just watch their stories. We double-tap their photos. We drop a quick fire emoji or a thumbs up on their post and call it a day. These tiny, frictionless little interactions allow us to maintain the feeling of a relationship. We get to comfortably observe what everyone else is doing from a very safe distance. So we're participating in their lives, yeah, but completely without investing the heavy energy that a true live interaction actually requires.
Which really forces us to stop and ask, why? Seriously, why do we prefer the reaction to the actual conversation? Why have we replaced live, messy dialogue with these sanitized, carefully written, bite-sized interactions? What is it about a real conversation that has suddenly become so daunting, and what is it about a digital reaction that feels so profoundly comforting to us now?
The answer actually lies in a concept that perfectly captures our modern psychological state. It's called the Goldilocks effect. Just like the fairy tale, Goldilocks wanting the porridge that isn't too hot and isn't too cold, but just right. Well, in modern communication, we want people at a distance that feels perfectly just right. So, the absolutely crucial point here is this. The issue isn't that people today don't want connection. We are not inherently antisocial, not at all. The issue is that we increasingly want connection only on terms that we can completely manage. We want others close enough to comfort us, but not so close that they overwhelm us. We want them available enough to reassure us, but not so present that they demand too much from us.
So why is this middle distance so intoxicating? Well, it all comes down to the appeal of control. Digital tools act kind of like volume knobs for human interaction. They let us control the timing, like we can reply 3 hours later if we want to. They let us control the tone. We can literally rewrite a sentence 5 times before hitting send. And they let us control exposure. We can hide our facial expressions, our tone of voice, the whole shebang. By doing this, we effectively remove the emotional risk from our relationships. We get to titrate, or basically dial down, human contact until it feels perfectly safe and totally friction-free. There is a sentiment that captures this perfectly. On computers, if things are unpredictable, it's in a predictable way. Think about that. Digital communication creates a profound sense of safety. Think about the sheer power of the backspace key. It allows you to edit your thoughts, craft the perfect joke, and sound way smarter, calmer, or more collected than you actually are in that moment. You can delay your response until you get it exactly right. You're protected from the immediate consequences of a slip of the tongue. In this digital environment, even when things do surprise us, they happen within a controlled, bounded frame.
Because of this, we're living a stark contrast every single day. On one side, we have controlled connection. This is where we feel safe. Here we can edit, we can delay, and we can intentionally distance ourselves. We essentially send in our representatives, the highly polished, best possible versions of ourselves. But then, on the other side, we have real conversation. And real conversation is completely unpredictable. It happens in real time. It requires us to be emotionally exposed. You can't hit undo on a spoken sentence, and you definitely can't easily hide a frown or nervous laugh. And that brings us to the underlying anxiety of our time. When asked what is actually wrong with having a real conversation, one young person summarized it perfectly. They said, "It takes place in real time, and you can't control what you're going to say." This is exactly why a ringing phone can induce a mild panic attack these days. Entering a live conversation means relinquishing control. It means you have to deal with whatever tone the other person uses, whatever awkward silence falls between you, and whatever unfiltered emotion just naturally rises to the surface. It's a complete surrender of the very control that our screens have taught us to fiercely protect.
But as you might guess, there is a massive hidden cost to all of this. By constantly sanitizing our interactions and keeping everyone at this perfectly managed Goldilocks distance, real conversation actually begins to feel threatening. Because we are just so out of practice with the unpredictable, the messy, everyday realities of face-to-face human interaction, start to feel like way too much emotional work. We lose our tolerance for the unplanned. We actually start to believe that if a conversation isn't perfectly smooth, efficient, and controlled, then something must be terribly wrong with it.
This dynamic fundamentally changes the very nature of intimacy itself. We begin to expect intimacy on our terms. We start to want closeness, but without any interruption. We want people to care for us, but without placing too many demands on our time or our emotional bandwidth. We want the warmth of another human being, absolutely, but we want to be able to just swipe them away the exact moment we feel bored or challenged. We are essentially trying to engineer the friction entirely out of love and friendship.
And this leads us to a pretty powerful realization. Digital communication, when we use it as a shield, gives us the illusion of companionship without the demands of friendship. Think about it. We can have literally hundreds of ongoing text threads. We can know what everyone ate for lunch, where they went on vacation. We feel surrounded by people. But it's kind of a fantasy. It's a way of keeping others emotionally at bay while pretending, both to them and to ourselves, that we're deeply connected. It is connection, yes, but it's mere connection, stripped of the heavy, beautiful obligations of true friendship.
Which brings us to a reflective, albeit pretty difficult truth: the necessity of discomfort. Real intimacy actually requires vulnerability. It requires the exact things we actively try to avoid online. It requires awkward pauses where neither of you really knows what to say. It requires unexpected reactions that you just have to navigate right there in the moment. It requires imperfect wording, stumbling over your sentences, and true emotional exposure. You simply cannot build deep, resilient trust with someone if you are only ever interacting with their highly edited representative.
Consider this profound truth. It is often in the moments when we stumble and hesitate and fall silent that we reveal ourselves to each other. I mean, think about the most meaningful relationships in your own life. The deepest trust you have wasn't built through a perfectly crafted text message. No way. It was built in the boring bits. It was built during a lull in a conversation on a long car ride. It was built in that terrible moment you said the wrong thing, saw the actual hurt in their eyes, and had to apologize and make it right then and there. The discomfort we so desperately try to edit out of our messages is precisely the space where our shared humanity actually lives.
So, we really have to consider the cost of the perfect edit. Now, controlled connection is incredibly useful. Don't get me wrong. It's highly efficient for logistics. It's great for sharing information quickly. It's a wonderful tool. But if we rely on it entirely, if we insist that every single interaction must be kept at that just right, controllable distance, we pay a severe price. We lose our capacity to be truly fully present with another person. We lose the emotional discipline required to just sit with someone else's unpredictable feelings. And honestly, we lose the courage to share our own unedited truth. I want to leave you with this final thought today. If our ultimate goal is to completely curate our lives, to manage our distance, and to carefully edit out all the messiness, the hesitation, and the discomfort from our relationships, if we edit out the discomfort, do we edit out the human being? Think about that the next time you hesitate before making a call, or the next time you rewrite a text for the 4th time. Actually, scratch that. Just remember this: the messy, unedited version of you is exactly what the people who love you actually want to see. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and maybe, just maybe, let yourself be a little less perfectly controlled.